Skills, they're important. It's how you manipulate a lot of portions of the game, but you might be getting a little bit of analysis paralysis when it comes to selecting your skills for your first character, or maybe your 15th build that you've made because you maybe haven't gotten past the first act because you just keep making characters like myself. So in this video today, I'm going to go through which skills are actually particularly very important in the game and which skills maybe are more situational. Now, if this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things here is by upfronting the knowledge of my videos so you can decide to stick around and see if it's a video for you. So with that being said, I'm just going to tell you right out the gate that the skills that I find to be the most important, and I'm just going to give you my top 3, are any conversational skill: deception, intimidation, performance, or deception, intimidation, and persuasion, with performance being lower on that scale, sleight of hand, and then perception. That's it. If you just chose one, if not all 3 of those skills, or spread those skills around your entire party, then you're good to go. Don't worry about anything. You're going to be picking locks left and right. You're going to be discovering all sorts of booby traps and whatnot, and then being able to talk your way through any part of the game. That's it. If that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. Again, that was sleight of hand, perception, and then a conversational skill. But if you want to jump ahead to any other part of this video, you can go ahead and navigate using the chapters in both the timeline and the description. Also, don't forget to check me out on Twitch, where I do stream Baldur's Gate 3 and a number of other games. But let's get started here on what the best skills are in Baldur's Gate 3. Now, before we get started, it's just worth noting that all of your skills are broken up according to their ability that they coincide with, right? So, a stealth is a dexterity skill, or nature is an intelligence skill. So you will get your ability modifier added into this. So have +2 to your wisdom, then it adds into all of your wisdom corresponding skills. And if you don't have any of these checkboxes, it's because your character class is not proficient in that skill. So just kind of keep those things in mind. But before we actually get started, one thing I do want to say is all this is purely my opinion. It's my conjecture, it's my anecdotal experience. So don't look at any of the skills that I'm talking about as obsolete, as things that you cannot use in your character, or something that if you did not choose them, you're screwed, anything like that. Play this game like you want, how you want. Create the RP you have for your character in your head, and then choose the skills. If you're on the fence about skills, is when I hope this video helps you. Not to sit there and say, okay, if I don't choose those skills, my character's not going to be good, because I'm definitely not trying to say that. I'm saying that, hey, you know what? I've struggled when perception, insight, investigation, which one's going to be useful for the situations? I don't really get it. Playing through the game, I now understand. So I'm giving you that information here so you can make more informed decisions. And 2, if you have in your mind, hey, my druid, they're particularly good with perception and arcana, because maybe they learned their druidic skills at a location with a wizard alongside them, and they learned arcana, or whatever it is. The RP for your character should always trump any kind of min-max skill choice you have in this game. If you want to be an Indiana Jones-like bard that uses arcana, history, and investigation, then that's what you should do. Do not choose here what I'm saying is the absolute best. Only use this guide as a guide to help you when you are stuck trying to decide between skills. So to start us off in the absolute best portion of the skill branch are the conversation skills. Now, I'm approaching this from your main character. Think of this, though, that any skill after this point can just easily be slotted into any one of your companions, either the origin companions, the generic companions you can find throughout the game, and then the generic hirelings you can get from withers. You can respec all of them to have skills that fit into any gaps you've got. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going through this video as well. But conversational skills, I think, you should have one conversational proficiency on your main character. And those are deception, intimidation, and persuasion. And you can kind of get around this if you don't have a character that has one of these proficiencies unlocked. Like, right, as a bard, I can choose anything at all, right? But if I say, we looked at this a little bit ago, but if I switch over to barbarian, maybe I really wanted to go with persuasion. Maybe I wanted to be a smooth talking barbarian. You can kind of go around a lot of that stuff by using your background to say, hey, you know what? You're a noble, so now you have skill proficiency in persuasion out the gate. So keep those things in mind when it does come to selecting your skill proficiencies. But you will use deception, intimidation, and persuasion in almost every single conversation that you interact with in this game. You can completely bypass a ton of fights. You can completely bypass a lot of portions of the game that do involve, you know, throwing fisticuffs or dealing with some sort of repercussion by simply talking your way out of it. But don't think that that also means that you're losing access to stuff. In fact, I think that actually keeping a lot of the people in the game alive does actually unlock certain vendors maybe that you didn't know you would have access to, or certain quests. So playing through those ways of playing is a very, very fun and very rewarding way to play. Maybe the trade-off here is that you don't maybe get certain items that you would have gotten otherwise by killing them, but every single main character should have at least one proficiency point in these. And if you are playing a character that doesn't have high charisma, you know, you can't benefit from this, just make sure your charisma is not 8. As long as it's not 8, it's fine, right? So at 8, I get a -1, meaning my and every one of these drops down quite a bit, right? So having my charisma at least at a 10 keeps this all at a baseline of 0 so that I can play around with proficiency bonuses from there. Now, the next two skills I want to talk about are kind of tied for second place depending upon how you want to personally approach the game. And again, remember, a lot of this is all my opinion and the way I have perceived the game in my playthrough. But Sleight of Hand is just stupid important because you're going to encounter tons of locked doors, tons of locked chests, all sorts of things in which you need to pick the lock. Now, you don't need it on your main character, and that's what I'm trying to say here is this is an example of a skill you could just as easily put on Astarion, or any character that you wanted to have a Sleight of Hand. If you have a Bard or a Ranger or I think Shadow Monk even gets Sleight of Hand. Plenty of other classes have Sleight of Hand proficiency options, so I would say definitely use that. You're going to encounter a lot of traps in this game, and being able to disarm them is quite nice. But you can also work around a lot of those things. You can destroy chests with your weapon, and in a lot of other CRPGs, destroying chests degrades the loot in the chest. From my own personal checking, and from kind of looking on the internet to see if I'm an idiot or not, which I usually am, destroying chests does not degrade the loot in Baldur's Gate 3. If that is... If someone wants to correct me in the comments, by all means. And if you heard that and go, I gotta double check that, check the comments to see if there is someone that did correct me. But I'm pretty sure from all my personal testing and from checking, destroying chests does not degrade items. So you can just blow a chest up if you can't open it. So keep that in mind with Sleight of Hand. It's easy for doors and for traps, but also getting through a lot of your chests. Next up is Perception. Now, if you didn't go with Sleight of Hand, I'd say Perception is your number 2 slot, right? The tricky thing is that Perception is a wisdom-based skill, just like Sleight of Hand is a dexterity-based skill. So maybe you aren't going with a dexterity-based character, but you will probably have a baseline solid amount of dexterity because it dictates your armor class and it dictates your initiative, right? So pretty much everyone has somewhere between 12 to 14 baseline dex. But Perception, on the other hand, is a wisdom-based skill. And that's probably going to be pretty low on your character, your main character, unless you are going with a wisdom-based character. This is, again, another example of someone you can just simply slot into maybe a cleric you're playing with, or a ranger, or a druid you're playing with. Because Perception is stupid good, because you use this to spot certain things in your environment. It says, observe your environment, spot hidden details. That's like damn near everything in the game. You're going to use this to find any and all traps. You're going to use it for a lot of things as you navigate through the game. So having a high perception is key, because when you look at perception, insight, and investigation, the three of them feel like they all kind of sit somewhere in a similar brain process. Even when you think about it from the D&D tabletop perspective, that's kind of up to the DM as far as which one you're going to be rolling for a certain situation. And there's certain situations that make more sense than the others. But in Baldur's Gate 3, you will be using perception a lot. So I weigh that higher than the other ones. Not that the other ones are bad, but it's, I think, the best one of the kind of investigative type of skills. Now, another wisdom-based skill, and the third here on our list, is insight. Now, insight is conversational. Read people in situations, detect lies. Whereas perception is more about your environment. Insight is more about you in a conversational setting. The reason I've put insight so high up on this list Did I say number 3? This is number 3. This is number 4. The reason I put insight so high on this list is that you use it conversationally, and you can actually miss context clues of certain romances at certain points if your insight isn't high enough. And it helps you a lot in conversation, way more than almost any of the other skills, because this gives you more conversational paths usually. Stuff like history, arcana, those things in conversation don't always lead to more conversation options or ways through the conversation. They usually like, oh, you now discovered this about that. Like, oh, so it's not, it's a little less as important as the others. Again, though, that's my opinion and the way I've approached it. An example would be I was romancing a character. We were talking outside on a beautiful moonlit night. We both laid down next to each other and stared at each other. And I failed the insight check on one of my characters. The other character, I passed it. And then it allowed me to kiss that individual. That led to further romance. So you won't miss romance options entirely if you don't have insight, but this does unlock them a little bit earlier. Now, the last wisdom-based skill, coincidentally, I want to talk about is survival. And survival is used quite a bit. So stay alive in the wilds, track prey. And it's really not used like that in the game from my experience. You use survival quite a bit to find hidden stashes, which you would think otherwise would be perception. But survival is used for finding hidden stashes whenever you discover it in a book or what have you. So oftentimes the book will say, hey, this stash is hidden at this place in the map. And you go to that place in the map, and then you oftentimes then have to make a survival roll. And if you fail the survival roll, you just don't get the stash. You have to come back after a certain amount of time. So survival, having that to a good amount, I think is pretty important because it allows you not to miss out on any of those stashes. In my experience, though, too, just to let you know, I don't think I've seen a stash where I was like, man, if I had missed this, that would have sucked. It's usually just nice to haves. Some additional gold, some additional scrolls, some potions, maybe an item here and there, but nothing completely crazy. And less used in conversations than the others we've talked about so far. Moving into intelligence, we have investigation. Now, this is one, again, you're going to probably have on a character that is intelligence-based. So if you have Gale or any character that you're going down a intelligence-focused character, an Eldritch Knight, a Wizard, what have you, investigation is going to be pretty good for them to just have as a proficiency anyway. And investigation says analyze clues, solve mysteries. And I have it kind of lower on this list because I just really don't use it as much as I did insight or perception. Investigation is more like, okay, you've discovered something and see if you can use an investigation roll on it. Or maybe you're walking through a portion of a laboratory through a hidden door and you're meandering through some stuff and you read a book. You failed an investigation roll. It's just it's not used as often as you would think. Now, with that being said, if you choose origin characters, like if you chose Gale as the origin character you are playing as, you will have a lot of investigation rolls. So kind of keep those things in mind when it does come to these things. Like I said, it is going to be very based off of your playthrough. But I do find that investigation to not be as useful as insight or perception. The next group of skills are, well, a group of skills, because I find them to be very situational. So nature, religion, and history are very situational in that you almost will never encounter them on a set situation of like, hey, you know what? The only way to get through this point is if you have one of these 3 skills. Or the only way to unlock a conversational portion is to have one of these 3 skills. It does exist. It's just not, it's very rare in my opinion. So history and nature especially will grant you lore about a situation or lore about what someone's talking about in the middle of a conversation. Or maybe someone will say something and you'll quickly make the roll and then your character will have a self-reflective moment of saying like, oh, this reminds you of that. So this is why those are not as important as it comes to pushing your way through the game or maybe getting access to items you couldn't get before or whatever it is. But this really does spice in how you're going to play. So don't think of these as useless skills. Think of them as skills that make a lot of sense for the character you're playing. You know what? I'm playing a lore bard, so it makes a lot of sense that maybe I know a lot about history. I've poured through some ancient tomes. Or maybe I'm a wizard, and that's the same exact thing. I would know a lot about Arcana. I meant to throw Arcana into this. Arcana, history, nature, and religion all exist on the same level of just being contextually based. Or again, I'm a druid, I would know nature. I'm a cleric or paladin, I would know this religion. So don't think that if you chose religion as a paladin because of the roleplay you had in mind, you just chose a dead skill. No, in fact, it spices the playthrough up of playing as a paladin or playing as a cleric. And you will encounter definite situations, and I try not to spoil anything, right? You'll find in one of the acts, you'll deal with certain things that have a lot of religious connotation and iconography, and having a high religion roll lets you discover more about the world and the lore. So it's not a complete throwaway skill. I'm just trying to explain to you that it's not something that's going to grant you more from, I guess, a min-max power gamer perspective or whatever it is. And the next two skills I want to talk about are, I don't know why they are so not good, but they are not great. But animal handling and medicine are very situational to a ridiculous degree. Medicine, I think I've had 1 or 2 rolls for it. It was to heal someone who was wounded. It was like, oh, I hear medicine roll. There you go. And it didn't really do anything. The alternative was just to give them a small healing potion. Or animal handling. As long as I was able to talk to animals, the skill of animal handling didn't really seem useful. I can either use talk to animals or befriend animal, and animal handling has never really had much of a part, and my main character is a ranger beastmaster. So maybe I just haven't encountered a lot of those situations in the game, or I've somehow kind of pushed past them, but I personally have not. I've maybe used animal handling once on my character, and I've done plenty of crazy situations with animals. Crazy situations. And medicine, again, is another one. I've heard, though, that medicine does affect your alchemy and the output of certain things. So if you do want to go heavy into the alchemy game and you do want to go with medicine, go with it. It is part of the origin of the Dark Urge. So if you choose Dark Urge, your background gives you medicine proficiency. So that actually might play into the Dark Urge, and I do not know how or in what way. I have not played through a Dark Urge playthrough, so it might have a big bit of importance there. So that just a heads up to that. But I find that animal handling and medicine are ridiculous levels of situational. Now, to close us out are the last 3 situational, quote-unquote, skills that I think sit outside of this entire spectrum because they depend upon the character you're playing 100%. Like, if I'm playing a warrior, a fighter, then stealth is never important to me necessarily, right? Like, yeah, you can use it situationally when it comes to certain portions of the campaign, but my fighter kit is not based around it. If I'm playing a Gloomstalker Ranger, a Shadow Monk, a rogue assassin, a rogue thief, a rogue Gloomstalker, whatever, then stealth is absolutely pivotal to my character. So I've put this aside from everything, not because it doesn't sit in the spectrum here at all for me. I think if you are a rogue, this is your number 1 skill. If you're not a rogue, then it doesn't even exist for you. So I think stealth is a really important one, and I wanted to kind of give it its own little section alongside acrobatics and athletics. So athletics here is basically the ability to push things. It's the easiest way to break it down into a very quick, digestible situation. Like, okay, you have the ability to shove, you're going to make an athletics roll to see if you shove, and then you'll pass or fail. I find that I almost never shove. The AI does shove quite a bit, though, so it is worth noting. And then acrobatics falls back in line with athletics here. Keep your balance, land on your feet, helps you resist being shoved. So you make an athletics roll to shove, and then they make an acrobatics roll against that. So I find that athletics and acrobatics, again, are very situational in how they exist. Athletics used to have a lot of other things that would add to it. It would help out with health, or it would help out with jumping distance. And you still get those benefits when it comes to jumping, I believe, with athletics and acrobatics. But you can use a potion of vaulting to get over any of that, or plenty of other ways to increase your jumping capabilities. Or if you're a Githyanki, you can just simply leap 9,000 feet, or you can use the spell that allows you to jump very far. So I find athletics and acrobatics proficiencies to be better spent on any of the actual things that bar me from certain portions of the game, or prevent me from talking my way through certain things, or giving me access to certain doorways and whatnot. So I find that I just don't really use them as much, even though I really want to use them as part of the role play of my rogue. I picked up acrobatics on my rogue simply because I want my character to do certain things in the role play in my head. So don't think that me telling you I really wouldn't use it as a situational. I've still picked it because even though I know it is situational, it's just the role play I've created for the way I want to play my rogue. So definitely look at these skills and how they're going to be best exemplified for you and your character and your playthrough. This is again going to be something that's going to break down to your individual character class and what you have in mind for them. I've said that animal handling is super situational, but my Ranger Beastmaster has it as a proficiency. Does that mean he's a gimped character? Not even slightly. And if you try these skills out and you're like, you know what, that guy's actually full of shit. I use history all the time. Simply go to Withers, pay 100 gold, and reset your skill proficiencies. It's that easy. Experiment. Try these things out. There's no reason not to play this game in any way you see fit. And if you don't like anything, just simply go and try a different route, because you can just so easily respec in this game without any penalty to you. The only thing, of course, you can't respec are your origin and your race. Well, and sub-race, I guess, too, right? So have a lot of fun. Try these different skill proficiencies out. Hopefully this gave you a little breakdown on your analysis paralysis when you are creating your character, or hopefully help push you into one camp over the other if you're maybe between insight or perception or what have you. And go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Are you saying, you know what, no dude, I'm using nature all the time and this is the pretense in which I'm using it? This is really going to help people out who are on the fence, and maybe this video did not help them out in deciding. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.